name's Johan. A little bit about me. I started life, work life in corporate. Did lots of, no, in fact, I started work life as a teacher, teaching schools, taught physics at A-level and GCSE, and then had a spell in corporate life, just running this company. Then I decided to move on and start my own business. So today we're just going to talk briefly about entrepreneurs and a bit about innovation and how marketing helps, and throw in a few examples. The examples we'll talk about are going to be from mostly business and marketing specialists who are well known. Now, quick, get your phones out, put them on silent, and scan the QR code. I had one or two minor issues with something called Mentimeter. Might have to. Okay. That's not going to work. Okay. Start the ball rolling. I'd say you should have a little graphic just to start the session off. Just to give us a feel for how you're feeling today. How you know. We've got 9 different options. We'll see what most of you are feeling. A few happy ones, some excited, some very focused, a couple of totally chilled out people. Oh, quite a lot of very chilled out people. Right, as we go through, there will be a few examples of using the Mentimeter just to give us a feel for how things spell out. Unfortunately, with this, I will have to Okay, I'm sure most of you have come across this or some sort of version of this. Just to give an idea of what words come to mind when you think about entrepreneurship. Business and innovation are looming large in that, which is probably not surprising. Okay, let's just move on. Okay, key question. Now, this is one which is an extreme one. Founder of LinkedIn, someone who jumps off the cliff and starts building a plane to make their descent easier. As I said, a bit extreme, but it's about risk tolerance and vision. And think about innovation as a catalyst, as a spark, and the entrepreneurship is the result. So in this case, a spark leading to a fire. The journey for an entrepreneur is not an even one. I think a lot of people expect a steady flow, growth in business, and it's not like that at all. The reality is there are lots and lots of ups and downs. I moved from corporate life into running my own business. And the challenges were, I had a very, very good PA, for instance, who used to prepare me for meetings, so I had everything done for me. When I started on my own, I had to do everything. So, that's just the reality. So why do people do it? What's the benefits? What does it give you? It gives you the pleasure of having your own vision, controlling your own destiny in some ways, not somebody else's. And for some entrepreneurs, it's all about making a difference. It could be to do with sustainability, it could be to do with issues to do with water supply, health issues. There are things that you can control directly. Then there is no red tape. So you're not in a corporate environment constrained by rules and regulations. I'll give you an example. In my corporate life, very large company, I did some deals with a high street bank. I did the deal in 6 weeks. In corporate life, I would have been lucky to get halfway through the process in 6 months. Okay, so because there's so much red tape. The upside in terms of financial reward, if you get it right, can be phenomenal, and we'll see an example of that in a little while. Okay, where are the challenges? Cash flow is a huge issue. Managing funds coming in and going out of business is a fairly major issue for most startup businesses. And also, I think, not thinking about whether you've got something which is required by your customer base. Then there's the uncertainty. Sometimes you're fighting your way through, you don't have a clear vision, there's no strategy department, there's no business planning department which will guide you through in a corporate structured environment. You have to make your own way through. There are huge constraints on your funds. A lot of businesses start as a one-man band or one-person band, two-people band. So you are very constrained in terms of the resources you have available. There is a fallacy around build it and they'll come. There's a film made, probably too old for you guys, and it was where Kevin Costner, as a sports enthusiast, built a baseball field, and people came and played and became very successful. So, why do businesses fail? I briefly mentioned that there is no market need for it. So you might be very excited about an innovation which you think is absolutely brilliant. But if there is no demand for it, your business will fail. So, innovation without market, it's just a hobby, something which interests you. Marketing makes a huge difference. Here's a stat from a research where 42% of businesses fail because there was no demand for the service which was being offered. Okay, some personal reflections. As I mentioned earlier, you have to do everything yourself, but be pragmatic. If it takes you 10 hours to do something, and say it's bookkeeping, for instance, and an expert specialist will do it in 2 hours, then that frees up 8 hours of your own time to add value to your business. So think about the possibility of outsourcing some of the key functions. As the business grows, there are very different types of challenges in that you might be a technical wizard, you're an innovation expert, and as the business grows, the requirements for the business to make the business grow are very different. You need somebody who specializes in being a chief exec or a managing director, and or chief finance officer or chief marketing officer. So all of these sort of different functions, you might need to bring expertise in. And I think most of you will have heard of the term fractional chief marketing officers, chief executive finance officers. Bring these people in. They can work for 1 day a week, 2 days a week, whatever the requirement is. The other key element, always think
in terms of your exit strategy. What do you want your business to do at the end when you step away from the business? Okay? So, a lot of businesses don't think about where they want to end up. And in a lot of cases, I think entrepreneurs want to sell their business as a going concern. And in order to do that, you need to maximize the value of the business. And it can be everything from, if you have a website, if you have 5 visitors a day compared to 500 visitors a day, that will add value to your business. Okay, so make sure all the assets are written. You're on to the next question already. Okay, what proportion of business survive 5 years in existence? Have a quick go. Let's see what you think. Okay, I'll stop in under 5 seconds. Okay, most of you have actually got that right. It's in the region of 40 to 50%, depending on the industry you're in. So, about half businesses fail in the first 5 years. Right. Marketing is absolutely essential. The 2 basic functions: innovation for the product or service you're providing, and then you need to market it to make sure that you've got paying customers. So it's a core part of your strategy. So, as I said, innovation and marketing, 2 key elements. If you look at the key requirements, think in terms of a marketing tool set. I've divided this into 4 pillars, if you like, a fairly well-established model. First of all, the value proposition. What is it you're offering? Okay? Make sure that you're very clear about what it is you're actually offering your audience. Then, who is it for? What are you actually, who are you targeting? What kind of customers do you have in mind? Then how do you actually take it to the market? What are the key steps in doing that? And then, of course, you need to start gaining paying customers who will pay your salary. So, value proposition. Think in terms of benefits. So if you're providing a service for a business, think in terms of what it's delivering for that business. What's the value it's delivering to that business? Don't think in terms of, oh, this has got nice bells and whistles. Here's a very crude example. A feature. Okay, our software has 256-bit encryption. Yeah? So what? What does it actually do for my business? Most people are not interested in that. The benefit is it keeps your data safe from hackers. So think in terms of a very, very simple analogy. If you think in terms of drill bits, what people want to do is make a hole. The fact that it happens to a piece of metal making a hole through a gadget is neither here nor there. So, you need to have a clear statement about what it is you're offering and what solution does it actually bring. For me, when I started, I have been in digital marketing for over 25 years. So when I left corporate life, I knew there was still a huge demand for digital expertise. I didn't have the technical expertise, so I joined an organisation called WSI. It's a global organisation headquartered in Toronto. What it does is it provides expertise dotted all over the world. So whenever we need to access the expertise, we can have it. So that was my clear value proposition. A couple of examples. Uber, early days, it's a smart way to get around. You just have to, you can call a cab. As time went on, you now get more refined in the use of the app. You get to know your driver, you get some reviews about the driver, you know how far he is away from pickup points and so on and so forth. Has anyone heard of Slack? Is there a quick show of hands? No? Yes? Okay, one or two. We'll come back to that in a minute. Talk a bit more about that. Okay, STP, segmentation, targeting and positioning. Dividing the market. So think in terms of one of the main reasons for failure of businesses is because there is no demand for the product or service you're offering. So think in terms of, don't think of everyone as your customer. Think in terms of what type of customer you want. Target the particular type of customer, and then position yourself as an essential part of that type of customer. So they always think in terms of your service or product. Segmentation can be a whole range of things. You can read either demographic, geographic, behavior, psychographic. As I said, you can't address everyone. Choose your sector. Focus on a niche which will work for you. Segment. Make sure that you're targeting a segment which is an attractive sector of the market for you. Make sure that they actually have an issue or a problem which actually needs resolving. It will add value to their business. Do they know that they have a problem, or are they oblivious to the fact that this is a major issue, it's become a routine, and nobody even thinks about it? And very, very important, do they have the budget? Do they have the money to pay for the service which you provide? Positioning. What you need to do is occupy the mind of your target customer base. So they start thinking in terms of what you provide as being essential to what they need. Then in terms of the quality or the type of service, are you looking at selling volume, so the margins are small, or are you looking at a premium product so that your margins are higher? That wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, I was going to say product positioning. I'm sure most of you know Just Do It is, of course, Nike. Who's with BD, and what is BD? Okay. Right, go to market. It needs to align the product, the marketing, and the sales. So when you launch your product or service, you need to think about all of these things which will take you to the market, so the market is aware of what it is you're delivering. The other thing is how do you reach your target audience? Think in terms of the strategies which you will adopt to get to that the market you're targeting. Pricing. Whole range of options. As I said, low margin, high volume is a perfectly acceptable strategy if that's the way you want to go. You can have high value, so you have fewer sales, but the margins are significantly higher. The channels to market, you can go directly to your target market. You can go through partnerships in retail or other channels, and think in terms of whether growth would be led by the product which you're selling or the volume of sales. Okay, I think just on this slide, maybe just the sales strategy, the final point. Zoom was product-led as opposed to software like Microsoft's Office software. One of the key things that I learned this is a hard lesson to learn, but it's very, very important to make sure that, first of all, you're actually working out the cost of acquiring a new customer. Make sure you account for all types of costs, because it's very easy to think, okay, I've got a customer, great, they've signed up, they're going to pay you, and then you just sort of forget about them. Think in terms of lifetime value of a particular customer you've acquired. So you might find that your average customer stays with you for 2 years. It might be that they just stay for 6 months. It might be they stay for 5 years. So think in terms of how much revenue do they provide you in your lifetime as a customer of your service or product. And of course, the lifetime value has to be greater than the cost of acquisition for the client. If you don't do that, you go into a downward spiral of cost becoming a major issue. And in my early days, that's something I did not even think about, and nobody told me about that. And that is a very, very critical part of the equation. Okay, acquisition, how do you acquire customers? Standard stuff, I'm not going to spend too much time. Inbound is when people call you, and you have either online strategies for optimizing websites, you can have content and marketing, you can have white papers, case studies, anything which sort of your target audience can actually relate to and might call you to say, I'm interested. And you can have similar messages on social media. Outbound is where you might get a telemarketing company to call on your behalf, ads or trade shows. Key element, I mentioned this a little while ago, is retention. Okay? It's very important to look after your customer base once they've come on board. Don't ignore them, because they'll leave, because somebody else will talk to them, and they'll say, I haven't heard from the team looking after me for a month now. I don't know what's going on. If in saying the area I work in, we look at analytics in terms of either social media presence or website presence, and we look at what's happening on the website, make recommendations for what else needs to happen. And if you don't provide that feedback and keep the client up to date and involved, then they'll leave. Okay, very important statistic you might have come across. It's about, on average, 5 times more expensive to get a new customer as opposed to retaining an existing one. Okay, I think the last point makes the same. Okay, some examples. Airbnb. Problem was hotels, people felt they were impersonal, not really providing a sort of a home type of environment, and that's what they actually provided and became popular. They didn't actually have any houses, they didn't have any assets as such, they were just intermediaries. Dropbox. I don't know how many of you use Dropbox, but the person who invented Dropbox used to have a bus journey, and he used to have a memory stick. And one day he forgot the memory stick, and his bus journey was, it was quite a long one. And then he came up with the idea of connecting the cloud, and so all the documentation could be on there. And it started off initially just as a storage. Now, advertising, as you build up storage, you need more. As I'm sure most of you who've got iPhones know that when you've taken 1,000,001 photographs,
Apple will say, oh, you're running out of memory. You know, have some more. Slack. Slack's a very interesting project. It was never meant to be a product for the consumer market, or a business market rather. What happened was, it was part of the gaming industry. It was used internally by a company which was developing a game called Glitch. Glitch was okay for a bit, and then it failed miserably. And then the guys who were working on Glitch sat down and thought, what can we do to salvage the business? And they found that Slack, which was used internally for communication, was very, very popular. And it was so popular, in fact, they sold it to Salesforce. How many of you have heard of Salesforce? Hopefully most of you know of Salesforce. They're a big CRM company, global player. 28 billion they paid for it. Okay, checklist. Very important, yet again, no apologies for saying this again. You know, make sure you know that the market for the service you're offering exists. About 4.5 years ago, as an organisation, we decided that something came on the market. OpenAI released ChatGPT. When that happened, we saw that there was something here which was a game changer for the digital marketing industry. So we released an ebook on ChatGPT about 3 months after ChatGPT was released. Okay. And we're now on to our 5th edition. We do quite a lot of, so we have some resources in AI. So AI, about 4 years ago, we became very heavily involved in AI. So we have resources available. So if any of you, I know some of you have already contacted me and requested connecting on LinkedIn. If I haven't responded, it's because I always like seeing a little message saying, you know, who you are, just to connect. But if you connect, and if you want access to any of these resources, just ask. They're available for you to use. So why did I start this? Okay, does the market actually want this? AI, as you know, is everywhere. So we offer things which we know are required at the marketplace. We do, the last 2 years we've been doing a global survey of 500 plus businesses in terms of what they're thinking and doing in AI. Using the results from that, we tailor our solutions to help. And one of the biggest requirements is education and training. So we offer a very, very sort of a big range of training options. Okay, this is the same message in a slightly different way. Yeah, this is another quote from a famous marketeer. Find customers for your products and find products for your customers. So, you know, don't go around being product focused. You know, don't get so fixated on thinking I've developed something which is so wonderful without thinking about whether anyone wants it. Okay? Think in terms of what people want. And Peter Drucker, who passed away about 20 years ago, a very well-known entrepreneur and marketeer. So the best way to predict the future is to create it. Okay, AI didn't really go away without saying much about AI. There's not going to be an awful lot, but here's a flavour of what's happening in the industry. I'm hoping all of you have heard of Accenture, one of the biggest consultancy firms, global consultancy firms, very, very aggressive. And Julie Sweet, who runs Accenture, made a very, very pertinent point about a month ago when she said, that if you don't, as a workforce, if you don't embrace and train in AI, you can leave. So AI is becoming very much part of, certainly for Accenture. Shopify, again, if you're into e-commerce, you'll have heard of. Chief exec there. Again, it's the same thing. Okay. Everyone from the intern to senior executives need to be familiar with AI. If you're not embracing AI, then there's no place for you in my business. Okay, so these are some of the leading organizations who are saying that AI is something you need to embrace. It's the successful companies are going to be the companies which take on board AI and work with AI to help them move forward and not worry about taking jobs and things. There are two things I always talk about when I talk about, I speak about AI at conferences and things. And I always talk about the human-AI human sandwich. Okay? And that's where, remember, AI is stupid. It doesn't actually have, you need to train it. You need to train it on everything. Okay? So, what you feed it is very important if you want an outcome from the AI. So be very clear and very precise in terms of what you want your AI to do. And then, look at what comes out. Does it make sense? If you're running your own business, you can actually train your AI to speak with your voice. You know, the values which you have. And then you check to make sure it's talking in the voice you want it to talk. Prompts are effectively jargon for what you feed into your AI. And there are lots and lots of different frameworks. We quite often use something called Craft, which provides your AI with context, it sets the background to the scenario, and then what role you want the AI to perform, provide the output. What action do you want it to actually take, provide that output. The format, whether you want it amusing, factual, serious, business-like, and identify the target you're aiming at. Can you guys actually see that on your mobiles? Yeah. Okay. We're approaching the end of what I was going to say. Just any thoughts on what single takeaway there is for you guys from today's session? Any knowledge and vision looms high? Experience? It looks like those three. Something cropping up about ideas as well. Okay. That gives us okay, that's me. So, we now have a little bit of time to take any questions or anything you wish to share from today, my experience. I can tell you a little bit more about my journey, if you like. Maybe it's speaking through it fairly quickly. I started work life as a teacher, as I said. I teach physics and maths at secondary school. I taught for a number of years, about 5 years, and for a variety of reasons I then decided to call it a day. I did a couple of things which were sort of more commercial. I did not enjoy what I was doing. I had very very little experience in terms of industry or business experience. So I went and did my MBA, so I was studying in the same place as you guys. I went to a school, business school called Cranfield, which is just over north from here. So I did my MBA, and then I did some strategy work for the IT division I used to work in, and then moved into commercial finance. There I ended up heading a team with a turnover of 300 million. I had a team of finance people who helped with making commercial decisions on investment and pricing. I then had itchy feet again, and I did a couple of other things, including I got involved in M&A with a couple of an American company and a German company. And then I discovered the internet, and I could see that this was going to be an area which is not going to be saturated for a very long time, and there was a lot happening. So that's where I started. As I said to you earlier, I had no technical expertise. I had no idea how to design websites or do search engine optimization. I learned a little bit, but my focus was on business strategy. I'm there to run workshops, help businesses realize their vision. And so it's been such a dynamic space, with the evolution of social media and now with AI. And that's where we are and have been for the last 4 or 5 years. And it again is an area where I can see there's huge opportunities for companies like ours to deliver value to businesses who are sometimes struggling coming to grips with particularly AI and how they can use it within their businesses. So, enough about me. Tell me something about you guys, or if there's anything you want to know about, you have a question, far away. Yep. Tell me your name first. Ajola.
Ajola, yes.
A man with a microphone.
I do have a question about, do you have any kind of quote or something that has motivated you all along your journey until you arrived here today? Like something that impressionates you and your journey?
There are lots and lots of downsides. Okay? Things go wrong, and when things go wrong, they can make you feel miserable. So what you need to do is you need to very firmly have your vision in your mind in terms of what you want to achieve. Now, when I started, even though I put a slide up about having, maybe you remember the slide which had my personal thoughts, it had having an exit strategy. I didn't have an exit strategy when I started. I didn't even think about an exit strategy. So, I was focused on firefighting quite a lot of the time. So, if you're running a business, there's firefighting, and there are times when things can be quite depressing. So, keep your vision in mind. Make sure you have something which is really important for you as a goal. So, there are probably quite a few people here. You're not too far away from, if you just keep going around about half a mile or so around the road, you come across HRO. They've got a Ferrari, Bentley, Lamborghini, Maserati. So if you're into cars, have your dream car, take a photograph, put it somewhere where you can see it every day. That's your vision. That's what will keep you going. If you have other priorities, make sure that that vision is always there. So when things, when you feel a bit low, focus on those. The other very, very important thing is try and always see if you can get somebody who's not related to your business, but can lend you an ear, so you can bounce ideas. Somebody who can actually listen to what you're going through and hopefully guide you a little. So if you have somebody like that, somebody who's sort of you can trust and you can talk to, I think that's really, really important. floor. Okay.
Sorry, hold on. Next question is here. Anyone who has a question, raise your hands and I'll be bringing the microphone over, okay? So.
Thank you, Mr. Shirish. My question is in regards to the entrepreneur's checklist. And the first one is, does the market actually want this?
Yeah.
But I think, while I agree with the remaining three, that's STP and value proposition, I kind of think the first one is somewhat flawed in the sense that rather than asking, does the market actually want this, can we ask, can I make the market realize they want this? So for instance, nobody wants to go to Mars, but then there's someone out there creating a market for it, already creating a market for it, because I think it's the human mind. The human mind changes, wants new things on different seasons of their lives. So for instance, I'm poor today, then I'm rich tomorrow. Obviously, my needs will change. My wants will also change. So do I need to necessarily ask or just say, I think there's a problem here. I'm the only one experiencing this problem, and assume that other people are experiencing this problem, then create a product rather than waiting for an MVP and then stalling. Because there are people who have created stupid things and then they are selling these things out there without doing any market research. So I sort of think that is flawed. So for instance,
What's the question?
that's the question. So can I rephrase that? And like, can we say that is flawed and just like as a business?
Thank you.
Yeah, I think if you remember, that was an important point, but also one of the statistics which I threw up there was 42% of businesses failed because there was no demand for a product or a service. Now, the important thing, and I think you have a very valid point, in that businesses might not always know that they have a challenge. So, if you can actually communicate to them that here's an issue which you didn't think was an issue, but we have a solution for it, which will make either your life or your business work better, then you're doing two things. One, you're enlightening them, you're educating them to say that, okay, I found out something about my business which I didn't really know about. And here is an organization which is providing you with a solution to help you move forward. So I agree with you that businesses might not necessarily always know that they have a challenge. So I can see where you're coming from when you say that, okay, there's no demand for this product. But not everyone is aware of the fact that they might not have a demand for or a requirement for the service. Does that help?
Good afternoon, sir.
Sorry, can you just say your name as well? So, sorry, you didn't tell me your name. Okay, proceed.
My name is Jennifer. So while you were speaking earlier, you mentioned that one of the challenges or lessons that you learned was that of the cost of acquiring a new customer. So I'd like you to please expatiate on that. What was the situation and what was the lesson? I just want to know more on the challenge you had and why you feel like the cost of acquiring a customer is actually key and retaining him is more important than just yet. I just want more elaboration on that.
Okay, so in terms of identifying the cost, you can probably pull together, whatever you're doing in terms of your marketing will help acquire a new customer. So if you're spending, say, £5,000 a month on advertising, and you find that you get, maybe 20 customers, and each of those customers then is costing you 20 customers, 5,000, so that's what, 40. If I got that right, no, £400 per customer in that order. So make sure that whatever costs are incurred in acquiring a customer are clearly identified. And then also, when you're looking at the lifetime value of your client, look at how long. There are always going to be a distribution curve in terms of how long customers stay with you for. Some of them will leave quite early for a variety of reasons. There could be their own reasons. There could be issues with the way you're managing the customers. So make sure that you're taking into account all of those factors when you're doing both the acquisition of a new customer and how long they stay with you for. And then you need to absolutely make sure that you're addressing lifetime value of the client. You think about upselling. For instance, when we do a new website for a client, we'll always look at what else can be added as a service, whether it's search engine optimization, advertising campaign, depending on what their goals are over the next year, the next 2 years, the next 5 years. So you're upselling, so you're retaining customers, you're adding more value to their business, and you're getting a longer lifetime value in terms of your revenue. And it's important to make sure that you're acquiring customers, because if you don't acquire customers, then your business is going to die slowly, because you only have an existing base. So when you're doing your customer acquisition, make sure that all the costs are taken into account, and then you do this simple equation: lifetime value versus cost of acquisition. And lifetime value has to be much bigger, at least 20% of what I would suggest. Does that help?
Thank you. Next one.
Hello, hi. My name is Sardar. My question is about that. Just few minutes back, you have said about the AI. AI is introduced 4 years back, right? AI is introduced 4 years back. ChatGPT or AI, anything. And what the changes that AI can bring to market at present and in future if you introduce a new product, and if you introduce a new product, and what was the innovation that AI can make if there is no human?
Sorry, can I just make sure I understand the question? Are you, is the question
If there is no AI, if there is no AI before the 4 years, then what innovation can bring the market? And if the AI is at present, then what could be our future? Without humans, then AI can produce the market rate or not?
Sorry, are you saying that can AI
Because AI is the one tool that was built by humans, and the AI has knowledge that is equal to human from past, present, and that can change the future, right? But in some cases, just now, proves like you said, in some parts of marketing, there is only the requirement of AI without humans. But on that statement, I can't agree. Can you clarify it, please?
Right. In terms of creating ideas using AI, that is one of the sort of benefits, if you like. Ideation is a major benefit. Absolutely, but yes, absolutely. What AI has done is it's dramatically reduced the timescale in which things can happen. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Say, for instance, if you're a firm of architects, if you have a sort of a ground plan for how much space you have for a building, and if the client's requirement is to maximize the amount of usable space, what the architect practice used to do was they used to take a junior architect who used to sit and work on plans for 2 or 3 days to create
there are some people
the
already
right
waiting.
type of maximizing the space. Now you have AI tools which can do this within 2 or 3 hours. So what it does is it frees up that resource where you can add value through your creativity and thinking, which your AI can't do to the same extent. So does that answer some of the...
Sorry, we need to move on because there are some more people and we got like less than 10 minutes. So, yep, sorry.
Hello, Shakis. Hello, Shakis. My name is Harry, and I have a question. Did you ever had a plan B as an exit strategy if this didn't work out?
I'll give you a short answer. No. I didn't even think, as I said, I didn't even think about an exit strategy. I knew what I wanted to do, and I was just going to make it work. Okay, so I did not have a plan B. I guess if I wanted to, I could go back into education, that was an option. I could go back into industry, that was an option. But it was taking a step where I'd broken away from some of the constraints which corporate world gives you. And then, you know, I was then free to do what I wanted to do, in the way I wanted to do things. And then that would have been the retrograde step. So I did not have a plan B. So that's probably a slap on the wrist.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
No, the lady over there, the lady. Yeah. You need to switch it on. You need to switch it on.
So my question is, one of the states that so in a situation whereby whereby they do not know that they need this or they want to see what you are doing. Know that they need this particular product. So that's what what's your advice on it? They go ahead and create the product once they feel that like people will need it in the future or
Okay, it's a very dangerous strategy to adopt to say, okay, I'm going to have an idea for a product or service. I'm just going to do it, even though there might be people who don't understand. I think you need to put a little bit more thought in terms of understanding who you're targeting, what the requirements for that business are. So you gave the example of AI. AI was created as a learning tool that will learn what you teach it. Okay? So you feed data into it to learn from that data and produce a result from it. So not everyone is aware of what the capabilities are. But here's a brilliant innovation in that it creates a blank paper for you to try and feed in information, to test information. I'm sure all of you have played around with Claude or Gemini or ChatGPT, and you ask it to do things just to test out what might come out the other end. So it's well, as a principle, I would say, you know, don't just build it and hope they'll come, because that might never happen. But if you put a little bit more thinking in terms of what your target market is and what their requirements are, then maybe you might come up against an idea which, your target market doesn't actually know might help you, and will produce good results for you. So I mean, that ties in with the question which came from that side of the room as well, and that if you put in some logical thinking in terms of the area you're targeting, and maybe you come across an idea which you think is going to really work as a commercial proposition, then it might well deliver for you. But as a principle, I would not suggest build it with our farm, because I don't think that will happen in many cases. So now,
good afternoon, sir. My name is Chukwuma. I wanted to ask, you said you moved from public life to commercial life. I wanted to ask, what was your drive? What was the reason you moved from that? Is it that you weren't paid well? And also, you talked about having challenges when you moved. So, what was your drive?
I think I was in corporate life, and there are lots of constraints. Now, I'll tell you the story, but when this is the same company I used to, I said that I was in finance for a brief period of time. I ran a team of finance people who made decisions on investment and pricing. So that was a very corporate type of environment. And then within the same company, it created an internet division, which is a very small division. It was run by a chief exec who was a bit of a maverick. He'd broken away from sort of lots of constraints within the larger organization. And so what happened was we had a sort of almost a Wild West. It's like Wild West now with AI. Okay, so we had a Wild West scenario when everything was happening, everything was moving really, really fast. And then the company I was working for decided that the internet division as a standalone small unit was no longer viable. So they absorbed it back into core part of the business, which meant it had all the red tape and the bureaucracy which goes with it. And that's when I decided to leave, because I couldn't go back into that environment, having experienced the freedom of working in a small standalone unit. That's when I made the decision. And the decision was made without really thinking about the practicalities of running a business where you have to do everything. You know, you have to attach your printer, get the ink, make the tea, you have to sweep the floor if you have an office. You've got to do everything. So the reality of that was really hard to take. And there are times when you really go through a very, very low period. And one of the things which I regret not having done is having someone, one of the pieces of advice I gave was try and see if you can find somebody you can bounce ideas on, somebody who can listen. And I wish I'd done that. So, does that help the picture? How are we doing for time?
Last question maybe, and that's
One
it.
more question?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Sarah. So my question is, good afternoon, sir. I'm Sarah. My question is, now after years of experience in the field, if there was one piece of advice that you would like to give yourself at the time, what would it be?
Okay, I think I've already done this. I think I was very lucky in that the area I was in is a very, very dynamic space. And so, even though I've done lots of skipping around in terms of my career, from teaching to commercial finance, mergers and acquisition, to strategy and so on and so forth, I think digital marketing is an area where I've been for over 25 years. And the reason for that is it's a very dynamic space. So make sure that what you get involved in is of interest to you, keeps you going. And the second thing, I can't emphasize this enough, make sure you have somebody you can bounce ideas off.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.